guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to, as you guys can tell by the title, a what we spent in a week on our Disney trip. Once I announced that we were going back, a ton of you guys asked if I would be comfortable sharing how much we spent at Disney just to give people like a ballpark. And when I looked this up, I actually didn't see any videos on it, and I think it could be really informative because I feel like, Disney is expensive. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, when you guys hear how much you pay for coffee every day, you're gonna be like, sis. But no one like really knows ways to save money or to do it on a budget. Everyone just kind of thinks like Disney is crazy expensive. And I just want to say as a reminder to you guys that the term expensive, budget friendly, it's all dependent on your financial situation. Today I'm going to sit down and chat with you guys, go through all the various costs, and also give you guys some tips and tricks and kind of tell you a little bit about kind of Disney as a whole and some ways that you might be able to save some money. So also don't mind the slick back hair. She's on like day 4 and I don't think I can pull off the slick back hair, to be honest, but I just had to get this video filmed for you guys, and so let's just pretend my hair is fresh and beautiful. Okay, and then just to give you guys some basics on our trip, so we went for 7 days. We went from Thursday to Thursday. We're 2 adults. One thing I will say with Disney is that things vary a lot depending when you go. So if you are trying to book a trip to Disney, the best suggestion that I have for you guys is to use a travel agent. I'm obviously not sponsored by a travel agent. I can leave our travel agent down below for you guys to send an email to, and they are truly amazing. Disney travel agents don't take a commission from you. They actually get paid by Disney once your trip has happened. And so you don't have to worry about like getting scammed or them trying to like push you into staying in a hotel you can't afford, because I feel like there's this weird kind of like stereotype about travel agents in society. And honestly, we book all of our trips through a travel agent. It makes it so much easier. If you give them a budget, they can help you decide, what hotel to stay at, and Disney travel agents are great and no one talks about them. It's really a lifesaver when it comes to going to Disney on a budget. Like, let's say you're like, hey, me and my boyfriend want to go to Disney for 5 days. Our budget is $3,000. Like, what can we get? And they'll help you figure out where you can stay. They'll help you make dining reservations and do all that. So I highly recommend. I will have our travel agent linked down below for you guys. You can send her a message. You can tell her I sent you or not. But she's great. And yeah, she never like pressures us to stay anywhere we can't afford or anything. And like I said, they get paid by Disney, not through your trip itself. Like, you're not paying them. All right, so I have everything written down on my notes app to talk about with you guys, and the first thing we'll talk about is like pre-travel costs. So currently at time of filming this, April 11th, you still need a negative antigen test to go into the US. Obviously that's subject to change at any point, but for this trip we needed negative COVID tests, and so those were $30 each. We got them at Rexall. Matt paid for his and I paid for mine. Walmart has them, I think, for $19.99, and Costco has them for $16.99. However, they just didn't fit the timing that we needed them in, because you need them within 24 hours of your flight. Is flights, and all we paid for our flights was the taxes, because I have a WestJet credit card and I had just like a ton of points and vouchers to use. So Matt flies free with me on a voucher. I just pay for taxes, and then I just use points for my trip. So I had to pay taxes for both of our flights, which I think ended up being, I want to say, around $200. It wasn't like a crazy amount. So that's all we paid for our flights, and we flew Ottawa to Toronto, Toronto to Orlando. There's still no direct flights outside the country from Ottawa. Let's talk about hotels super quick. I thought that this would be a good video to kind of inform you guys a little bit about Disney as well. So Disney World has 2 main types of resorts, on property and off property. They're exactly as they sound. Disney World in Florida is about 27,000 acres. There is so many different hotels to stay at, and that is considered staying on property. Off property would be staying like technically outside of Disney World at like a Marriott or just like a non-Disney hotel. Off-property hotels can be a little bit cheaper. However, you need to incorporate the cost of Ubering to the parks, and you won't get some of the special perks that Disney resort guests do. Staying on property, you don't have to worry about transportation. Matt and I never rent a car when we go, because Disney has buses, monorails, boats, Skyliners, so many ways to get to the parks, and everything is very accessible within the Disney bubble. You also get special perks such as booking your lightning lanes at 7, as well as getting an extra 30 minutes in the park in the morning. So I always tell people, especially for your first trip, whether it's like your first trip ever or your first trip as an adult, to stay on property. It is such an experience. We've stayed off property for a few nights on 1 or 2 trips, and it just wasn't the same experience, honestly. I know so many people have different feelings on this, but I do strongly recommend staying on property at least your first time, just so you get access to those little bonuses that Disney gives you. And then if you're staying on property, there are 3 levels of resort: value, moderate, and deluxe. These all fall in different price ranges. So there's 3 levels of resorts. This trip we did a value and a deluxe. Matt and I are big park people. We're not big hotel lounge around kind of people. I'm sure if we lived in Florida and we did the parks more often, we would be. But because we're there for a week, we don't care to stay anywhere expensive, because all we need is somewhere to put our heads and go to bed. So we pretty much always stay at value resorts. Century is our absolute favorite. I love staying there. I think when you think of like a value resort, a cheap resort, you kind of think like, ooh, like kind of sketchy. But honestly, they're some of the most fun resorts. They're very family friendly, and there's no real quality difference I've found in staying at a cheaper Disney resort to staying in a very expensive one. Service is still is great, the food is great, the souvenirs are great, and if anything, I actually found our value resort to be more accessible than the deluxe one we stayed at. So that's a little spiel about Disney resorts. If you have specific questions, you can ask me down below. But yeah, we're just not big relaxing people. Like if we're going to Disney, we want to ride rides, and so we just prefer to stay somewhere cheaper and use the extra money to spend on food and souvenirs. Disney hotels require a $200 USD deposit when you book, so I just didn't incorporate that in here because it was just so long ago, because we kept postponing our trip. But keep that in mind. And everything is going to be in Canadian, by the way. We stayed at Pop Century, which is a value resort, for 6 nights, and that came to $1,526.87. And then on our last night, I don't want to get complicated and confuse people, but we rented DVC points and stayed at a deluxe resort. DVC is Disney's timeshare, and it's a great way to experience a deluxe resort without the markup, and it's a little bit cheaper. And we did that because we just wanted to try something new, try a new resort, and I wanted to surprise Matt with that. So I paid $400 Canadian for 1 night at the Animal Kingdom Lodge in Kidani Village. Totally worth it. We had a safari view, I'm sure you guys saw in the video, and it was absolutely amazing. And with that came the perk of staying in Magic Kingdom from park close, which was 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. We got 2 extra hours in the park. So that was something fun that we did. Obviously not necessary, but if you are going to do a multiple resort stay when you're at Disney World, Disney will actually transfer your luggage for you, which is super awesome. So fun little tidbit as well. Then there's park tickets, which I'm not including in this because I honestly could not tell you how much we paid for them. We paid for them like almost 3 years ago. But Disney park tickets will range in price depending how many days you buy. So the more days you buy, the cheaper the ticket gets per day. Park hopper is also more expensive, which allows you the opportunity to quite literally hop around the different parks on a daily basis, which we didn't do. We just did 1 park a day. However, keep in mind, like holidays, long weekends, busy season for them, ticket prices are going to go up, as well as hotels. Okay, and then kind of miscellaneous Uber costs. So the Uber from the airport to Pop Century was $51 Canadian. I was kind of expecting that. It's like going anywhere. Ubers are going to be expensive going from the airport, especially to touristy destination. And then the Uber from Animal Kingdom Lodge back to the airport when we were leaving was $46 Canadian. And then we took an Uber from the airport to Matt's parents' house because that's where our car was when we got home, and that was $33.75 Canadian. So those are all of the Uber costs that we took. The fun part, let's talk about food, all that stuff. So Matt and I are big gift card people. It's a great way to budget. People always ask me what the gift card system is, and it's quite literally just putting money aside every month, because you can actually buy Disney gift cards in Canada and use them on your trip in the US to pay for everything from hotel, food, souvenirs, like I'm probably sure even theme park tickets, like you can use it for anything. And so we just had different gift cards for different purposes. But do keep in mind, because of the dollar, it can get like a little tricky to keep, I guess, track of how much is on it, in terms of like we brought a $900 Canadian gift card down and it only really had around like 700 and something US. So just keep that in mind, that you might buy the card in Canadian if you're in Canada, but it will be converted into US when you start using it. That's something to keep in mind. But we brought down a $700 USD gift card for food, and we ended up getting another $200 one. So we spent around 900 USD, which is $750 Canadian on food in a week. That included coffee, 1 or 2 alcohol drinks a day, and what's called quick service. So we're gonna break it down. Again, Disney has 2 main styles of eating at the theme parks. You have quick service and then you have table service. Quick service is exactly what you think. It's just quick, fast food. So much variety at the parks, like not your typical, I mean, there are chicken strips and like all that stuff, but there's so many other things to try too. And then your table service, which is your sit down restaurants, whether that's character dining, eating with princesses, Winnie the Pooh, Mickey Mouse, or just actual dinner spots. That is what table service is. I've done a ton of table service in the past. Disney has some of the best meals I have ever eaten in my life. However, on this trip, we just decided we didn't want to spend the money on it. I definitely think character dining is so worth it to do once in your life, but once you've done it a few times, like I just didn't want to spend upwards of $100 on every meal every day. It was just a personal choice that we made so that we could have more time in the parks and all that kind of stuff. But there are really, really great table service restaurants. Just make sure you kind of incorporate that into your budget. We did 3 table service our whole trip. They were just like reservations we had or last minute ideas, and I'll share some of those example costs with you guys after. But we mainly did quick service. And honestly, some tips and tricks for you guys. Disney meals are huge. You would have seen that in the vlog. I ordered a lot of kids meals, as well as Matt and I also split a lot of things. For example, Matt is not a big breakfast person and I am, so we would split breakfast. For lunch, he'd get an adult portion, I'd get a kid's portion, and then I would just eat some of his. And then for dinner, we'd obviously like have our own portions. So just kind of like little ways to save money. Bringing your own reusable water bottle and your own snacks. That's something we did this trip too. We brought like nuts, protein bars, Smart Sweets, all that stuff, because it's kind of hard to find snacks at Disney and they're also really pricey. So those are just some of the little things we did to kind of like save money but still enjoy ourselves. And just to give you guys like an example, I wrote down just some meal costs for you guys. So our first night we went to Bar Riva, which was at Riviera, and we each only got 1 drink, and with tip it came out to $55 Canadian. We ate at Sebastian's Bistro, which is a family style table service meal at Caribbean Beach Resort on our first night, and Matt and I's portion, because we went with Annika, so we like had obviously each 3 meals. It's a prefix, which is obviously like you just pay 1 price and then they bring you out. It's kind of like a buffet, but they bring it to you and you can like keep replenishing it. It's like the best bang for your buck at Disney. Came out to $96.37 Canadian. We went to Kona Cafe at the Polynesian one of our last days for breakfast, and we got a pot of coffee and we each got like a breakfast entree, and that was $49.52 Canadian. A bit pricey for breakfast, but not out of the ordinary. And then on our last day, we went to Boma, which is at Animal Kingdom Lodge, for a buffet breakfast, and we each got obviously a buffet prefix and then a coffee, and that was $70.91. Those are an example of some of our bigger meals, just to kind of show you guys, because I know when it actually isn't, it's probably the least we've ever spent on a Disney trip in terms of food. So we would usually have 2 coffees a day. Most days that we weren't going to like breakfast at the parks or had plans, we would do 2 cold brews and a pastry, and that would come out to around probably $25 to $30 Canadian, and we would do that once a day for breakfast, and then we'd do like a coffee run in the afternoon, which was probably about $15. So ate at Casey's Corner, which is a hot dog place, and we each got meals, and that was $41 Canadian. So just a bit of variety in case you're new to the Disney World and kind of want to get an idea for food, but there also is some really great websites as well. Miscellaneous costs on our trip, we bought ponchos because it was pouring one day and they were pricey. However, they're really great quality. We have them at home and they worked really great. I don't regret buying them because we spent our whole evening at Hollywood Studios and like nobody was there. And then in terms of souvenirs, a $200 Canadian gift card for souvenirs, and I ended up putting some things on my credit card. In total, I want to say we probably spent about $350 on souvenirs. We were really good, and an example of like some of the souvenirs is I actually got these earrings as a gift to myself for hitting 50K. Those were $53 Canadian. I bought a cute little tie-dye hat. That was $41 Canadian. I bought new ears, and I want to say those were probably around 40 Canadian. I don't even have the receipt, but then we also bought quite a few pins because we're a big pin collectors, and I'll say that we probably spent about, I'd probably say we spent about $100 on pins because they're around $11.99. I also bought 2 shirts. I bought one for myself, one for my sister, and those were each $31 Canadian. So around $250 to $300 on souvenirs, I think is a good bet. It's really easy to get overwhelmed by souvenirs, honestly, especially with the 50th anniversary, but I think we did a really good job. And just a reminder that like more souvenirs doesn't make you a bigger Disney fan at all. It's really easy to think that like the more things you have, the bigger the Disney person you are, but it's just not true, and don't fall for that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that's it, honestly. So I'm gonna put the grand total up here because I honestly can't really like even think in my head what the total approximately for our trip was. But obviously, just a disclaimer, like take this with a grain of salt. You might spend less than us, you might spend more than us, you might spend around what we do. I think this is a pretty budget friendly cost for 7 days for 2 people, but I don't want that to scare people away by thinking you can't do it cheaper, or you know, you can't go a little bit more full out. I'm just sharing what we spent in a week at Disney for ourselves. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, I'll leave our travel agents stuff down below for you guys in case you want to reach out. This is obviously like not sponsored. I just want to give you guys all the resources because I got so many DMs saying that you guys wanted to plan a Disney trip on a budget, you didn't know where to start, and it's a great resource to start. I'll also try and link some other resources down below for you guys as well. I hope you guys enjoyed. And before we go, let me know if the total shocked you. Like, did you think we spent more? Did you think we spent less? I'm super curious and I want to know, but I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!